See how it goes. Number 34. It says to write each decimal as a fraction. Write each decimal as a fraction. All right. Up at the top, you'll see we have some letters up here, a D, an F, and a P. The D stands for decimal. The F stands for fraction. And the P stands for percent, which we're going to talk about today as well. So this kind of goes along with, like, every time I pass a paper back and you get, like, 23 out of 30, and you're like, Miss Sawyer, what is this? What is this? Well, now you're going to learn how to change that fraction on there into a percentage, so you don't have to come and ask me that a million times, okay? But for right now, we're going to start with a decimal as a fraction. All right. When I change a decimal to a fraction. All right. First thing I want to remind us about, on our calculator, we have a couple of buttons. We have this button, the A, B, C button. What is that for? Juliana? For fractions. It's to make a fraction. Guys, if I use the ABC button, what should I be trying to find? A fraction. What does that fraction bar actually mean? What does the fraction bar actually stand for? What was that, Lauren? Division. These two things do the same thing. You need the top one if you want a fraction. You need the bottom one if you want a decimal and fraction. Okay, that's what those should be used for. The top one should be used to make fractions. The bottom one should be used to make decimals. You all okay with that? All right. Number 1 says, write each decimal as a fraction. Now, guys, if I look going from D to F, this says times 100, and then this says over 100. Times 100. Then I got to write it over 100. That's going to get a little complicated. Are y'all okay? This is the only time I'm not going to use my triangle. For this first set of examples, I'm not going to use the triangle. I'm just going to give you a different way. Are y'all okay with that? All right. For the first example, what number? So in front of the decimal, I have a 0, right? If there's a 0 in front of the decimal, do I need anything in front of my fraction? No. If there's a 0 in front of the decimal, guys, a fraction and a decimal are the same. They're just two different ways of writing it. Since there's nothing in front of the decimal, I'm not going to write anything in front of the fraction. What's on top of the decimal? Behind the decimal, we have 448. So behind the decimal, I have 448. Are y'all okay with that? Any questions on where I got that from? I'm trying to make this a fraction, so I'm going to draw my fraction bar. Fraction bar. Okay, and now I've got to put a number underneath that. What place value is that 8 in? Juliana? The thousandths. So I'm going to put the number 1,000 on the bottom. This is what I want you to notice. How many numbers were after the decimal? 1, 2, 3. How many zeros do I have? 1, 2, 3. That's just a good way to check your work. It's also a shortcut to figure out what number to write. All right, 448 over 1,000. Is that a good answer? What's wrong with that, Maggie?
It's not as simplified as it could be.
It's not as simplified as it could be. All right, guys, I'm going to give you a good way to simplify this. First of all, am I wanting to make this a decimal or am I wanting to make it a fraction? A fraction. So I'm going to type in 448, and I'm going to hit my fraction button to make it a fraction or a better fraction, okay? And then I'm going to hit 1,000. And then I'm going to hit enter. What did that calculator just do for me? It simplified it. It didn't just simplify it a little bit. It simplified it all the way. And I bet some of you are like, Miss Sawyer, why have you not just showed us this yet already? Sorry. Got to let you struggle a little bit, right? All right. So what is my answer going to be here? 56 over 125. There's my answer. All right. Number 2. What do you notice is different about number 2? Juliana? It has a 1 in front of the decimal. Guess what that means? I'm going to put a 1 in front of my fraction. Ta-da! What am I still going to do with the numbers behind it? Eli? I'm going to make them a fraction by doing what with the numbers behind it? What am I doing with the numbers behind that decimal, Layla? Caden? I'm going to make it a fraction by doing what with the numbers behind the decimal, Juliana?
You're going to put the numbers behind the decimal as the numerator.
Those are the numerator. Those go on top. So this 875, okay, I'm just going to write it on top, okay? Now I've got to figure out what to put on the bottom of that. How many zeros do I need on the bottom? That's the way I kind of like to do it. How many zeros do I need on the bottom, Sasha? 3. 1, 2, 3, and we put a 1 in front, or else it's just a bunch of zeros. So what number did I end up with? 1,000. Again, because 5 is in the thousandths place. All right, guys, is this a good-looking fraction? No. So what you can do, guys, is you can just type in the, I only need to simplify the 875 over 1,000, right? But if it bothers you, I can type in 1, fraction button, 875, fraction button, 1,000. So I typed in the whole thing. All right, I'm going to push enter. Did my 1 change at all? No, did I really need to type in the 1? No, but I did, and that's okay if you want to, if that helps you to visually see it. And what did that simplify my 875 over 1,000 to? 1 whole and 7/8. Okay. Questions on how I'm making it a fraction? Are y'all okay with that? Okay. Number 3. Make sure we're writing this all down. Number 3, do I need anything in front of my fraction? No, there's nothing in front of the decimal. What's behind my decimal? 2 zeros and an 8. So what do you think I need to write on top? Just the 8. All right? Like if I wanted the number 8, would I ever say 008? I'm just going to put the number 8. Now what do I need on the bottom of that fraction? Malachi? Not 100. To Braden? 1,000. If 8 was the second number, if it was just 0.08, I would put 100. Because there are 3 numbers after the decimal, I put 3 zeros, which gives me the number 1,000. Guys, is it always going to be 1,000? No. All right? So, again, in the calculator, 8, fraction button, 1,000. All right, what do I get when I do that? Okay. 1 over 125. All right, are we okay with number 1? Good with that? All right. Number 2 says write each fraction as a decimal. Hey, what did we say that fraction bar represents? Division, which means all I'm going to do here, guys, is I'm going to divide. So I'm going to do 7 divided by 20. Am I going to use the fraction button? No, because do I want a fraction? So I'm just going to use my division. Are y'all okay with that? So, and if you look up here, guys, I want to show you on the triangle real quick, because I told you I'm going to try to use it. Guys, if I go from F to D, what does that say? Divide. What am I doing? Dividing, okay? So, 7 over 20. What do I get when I do that division in my calculator? Guys, if you don't have your calculator out, then you don't know if you're able to do these. You've got to type these into your calculator. Make sure we're getting the right thing. Lauren? 0.35. Okay. Double check that. Do we agree? Okay. Number 2. What do you notice is different about number 2? It has a whole number. So guys, if there's a number in front of the fraction, I'm going to put a number in front of the decimal. So I'm going to start by writing 4 and then my decimal. What am I going to do to figure out what goes behind the decimal? Caden? Divide. All right. Guys, I only need to worry about the 3 and the 5. Are y'all okay with that? So what is 3 divided by 5? Savannah? 0.6. Do I need the 0 in front? All I need is the 6. Do y'all see how my 4 kind of took the place of that 0? Are y'all okay with that? Are there any questions about number 2? Make sure you type that in your calculator. See where we're talking about that 0 disappearing. All right. Number 3, is there anything in front of the fraction? So is there anything in front of my decimal? No. So you can just do your division. What do we get there, Michael? 0.44. 0.44. Does anyone disagree? Perfect. So all we're doing on these is dividing. And guys, I wrote that division symbol because in my notes, when I look back at how to do this, is it important that I knew that I'd use the division symbol on my calculator? So I just wrote dividing. Are y'all okay with that? All right. Number 3 says write each percent as a fraction. Guys, y'all see where it says P to F? What have they done? They've put their percent on top of 100. Guys, every single time you see a percent, 97% is out of 100. 53% is out of 100. 0.8% is still out of 100. It's just like really, really tiny because that's not even one thing, okay? 230% is out of 100 still. All right? 106% is still out of 100. So 106 would be like if you got bonus points on a test, right? You got a 100, but then you got 6 more points added. Okay? Like 250%. Sometimes if you ever go like to the vitamin aisle at like the store, all right? Sometimes when it says like your daily percentage. So you have a certain amount of vitamins and nutrients you want to get every day. All right? Well, some vitamin percentages are higher than 100. Because guys, the point in taking a vitamin is to increase your intake. Well, if it's just 100%, isn't that just what you're supposed to get on a daily basis? So if they're saying, hey, in this one tablet, there's 250% of your vitamin D, that means, hey, you're getting your daily amount plus some more in that one tablet. Do y'all see the difference there? Is it saying you got to take 200 tablets? No, it's just saying one tablet has extra stuff in it. We okay with that? All right. So what we're going to do here is it says every percent is out of 100. Do y'all agree with that? So I'm going to start by writing that percentage number. So 8% is really 8 out of 100. So I'm going to write that exactly like that. 8 out of 100. Are y'all okay with that? Y'all good with that? 8 out of 100, okay? 8 out of 100. I want to make it a fraction. So what button am I going to use? The fraction button or the division button? The fraction button. Do y'all see the difference? Since I want to make this a fraction. Is 8 over 100 already a fraction? Yeah. Is it a good fraction? No. It's not good. So I'm going to do 8, fraction button 100. Just using that fraction button. I push enter. Does it fix my fraction? Yeah. What is my actual fraction going to be now? 2 over 25. Okay? 2 over 25. All right, number 2, what do you think I need to do here, Malachi? 76 over 100. And now I'm going to type in 76, fraction button. Good catch, guys. 76 over 100. When I push enter, what's that going to give me as a better fraction? Hayden? 19 over 25. All right, excellent job. Questions about number 2? You got to use the fraction button. In fact, if you want a little reminder, because it says fraction, remember that means you're going to have to use that ABC button. Well, I mean, you don't have to. You could simplify these on your own, couldn't you? Fraction button just makes it a little faster. Okay. All right, number 3. How am I going to set up number 3, Gabe? Perfect. All right, and then when I use my fraction button to fix that, what am I going to get? Braden? 2 and then 91 over 100 because, well, 91 and 100 simplify. No, guys, I want us to add number 4 on here at the end. Number 4. All right, I'm going to give you one because there's some on your homework that are like this that people have had trouble with. 0.7%. Alright. So this becomes a problem, 0.7%, because how am I going to make that a fraction? 0.7%. What would I do to make that a fraction? Just like the other ones. What would I do, Eli? Put it over 100, so that gives me 0.7 over 100. Do y'all agree? Alright, I want to show you what happens here. 0.7. fraction button, because we want to make a fraction, right? Over 100. Y'all ready? Enter. Why is that giving me an error, guys? What's wrong with this? What, Juliana?
Because it's a decimal and a fraction.
It's a decimal and a fraction. Remember, guys, we said at the beginning of the year, decimals and fractions are in the same thing. They're going to like take over the world, ruin math, which ruins everything else because math is behind everything that we do. All right, so decimals and fractions, that's bad news. Do y'all agree? All right, so here's what is going to be a better option. What could I change that percent to? Well, that's what we're trying to change it to. What, instead of putting my fraction button, what could I do there, Maggie? We can't just make it 0.7 over 100. Braden? Instead of hitting the fraction button, guys, I'm going to hit the division button here. Y'all see how now that changed my problem? Can I divide a decimal? Sure, it's going to give me a decimal, but let's do that. So I'm going to hit division, so I hit equals. And now what that gives me is 0.007. Are y'all okay with that? Do y'all see how I changed that to a decimal? Now, guys, is that a good decimal? No. Well, okay, that was bad. That was a bad question. I'm sorry. So, guys, I got a decimal, but is that what I'm trying to get as my answer? No. But now, can I make that decimal a fraction? Look at what we did on example 1. We made decimals what? Fractions. So can I make that decimal a fraction? Yeah. So instead of putting it over 100, 0.00, oops, sorry, y'all. What am I going to do to make that a fraction? What number is behind the decimal, Eli? 7. And what am I going to put on the bottom? 1,000. All right. Now, is that a good fraction? How could I double check it? How could I double check that? Gabe?
Count how many numbers are behind the decimal.
Okay, so 1, 2, 3 are behind the decimal. 1, 2, 3 zeros are there. What could I do to see if that'll simplify? Use the calculator. Now I'm going to use that fraction button. Now does it have a decimal in it though? No, now it's just 7 over 1,000. Did it change it? So is it good? Yes. All right. Example 4. Write each fraction as a percent. All right. So guys, you can see just here we went from my percents to fractions. That's where we were putting it over 100, right? Now I want to go from a fraction to a percent. So step 1 says to change my fraction to a decimal. Do y'all see where I'm going F to D? I'm dividing. And then after I divide it, I'm going to do times 100. So I'm just going to follow that track on my triangle. So I'm going to divide it first. 3 divided by 40. What do I get when I do 3 divided by 40, Maggie? 0.75. Y'all agree? All right. What do I need to do next? It's not 0.75. Yeah, so Maggie, you got to be careful. If it has zeros there, we got to have them. So it's 0.075. Make sure you have that in there correctly, okay? All right, 0.075. We divided. What's my next step? Braden? Times by what? 100. So I get 0.075. I'm doing times 100. And what does that give me? Sasha? 7.5. Make sure we have percent, because what does it say we're changing it to? Percent. If it says percent, you got to have a percent symbol. All right, I'm going to be real honest. In first period, I forgot about my percent symbols. We have to go and add them. It's really easy to do. If it says percent, write your percent sign, okay? All right. So number 2, we're going to divide first. 11 divided by 25. Camilla? Say that louder for me. 0.44. All right, and now what do I need to do? Jordan? Times 100. All right, and what does that give me? Sasha? 44. percent. So if I've handed back a homework and you got 11 out of 25, do you have to come and ask me, is that a good grade anymore? No. Divide it and then multiply by 100. Ta-da, there's your percent. All right, number 3, first step, divide. We got to make it a decimal. All right. Gabe?
You get 0.125.
0.125. All right, now what?
Times 100.
Times 100. What do I get as my final amount here? Braden? 12.5%. Okay? On to the back. So guys, all of these, like the process, you're using your calculator, they're pretty easy, but do you see how they're all just a little bit different? The hardest part is remembering what are those little differences. All right. So again, we just did fraction to decimal, which says divide. Decimal to percent says to multiply by 100. Now it says write each percent as a decimal. Okay, so I want us to look. It says percent to fraction. Do you see how I'm going? Percent to fraction, then to decimal. Guys, can I go backwards on this? No, we have to go up. So I'm going to go percent to fraction. So for number 1, to change that percent to a fraction, how am I going to do that? Julia? Put the percent over 100. So 9 over 100. Y'all good with that? All right, and now I've got to go from fraction to a decimal. How am I going to do that? Okay. Divide it. So 9 divided by 100. What do I get there? Camilla? 0.09. That's it. Okay. So, number 2. What do I need to do first? Caden? 924 over 100. And then what do I need to do? Sasha? Divide it, and what do we get? 9.24. Guys, it already had the percent sign. Am I making it a percent? No, I'm making it a decimal. You do not have the symbol anymore in your answer. All right, number 3. How do I need to write it first, Michael? Over 100. Perfect. Now, guys, we even discovered, guys, if I have a decimal, there's no way I can hit the fraction button. We have to hit the division button. What do I get when I do that division? Sasha? 0.0078 after we divide that, okay? All right. Number 4, same thing. We're putting that over 100. And then when I divide it, I get 0.57. Number 5, 19 over 100. When I divide it, I get 0.19. Number 5, 57.3 over 100. When I divide it, I get 0.573. If you want to make it a fraction, use the fraction button. If you don't, you use the division button. All right. Number 1 on the last set of examples, it says write each decimal as a percent. So guys, look back at my triangle. Decimal percent. What does it say to do? Times 100. Guys, do you see how that triangle kind of gives me a clue on what to do every time? So on number 1, we're going to do times 100. What do I get? Braden? 2 what? Percent, because we're making it a percent. Make sure we have a percent symbol. Number 2, times 100. What do I get? Malachi? 0.803. Percent. Make sure we have that percent sign. If you're changing it to a percent, you got to write percent. It says percent at the end. Have percent. All right, and then number 3, last one. What do I get? Camilla? 1,620%. Make sure you have your percent there. All right? If you did not add your homework to your table of contents, please add that. That's number 35. Pass that out for us. Together real quick, just because I've had a lot of people that have had trouble with these. All right, so this is number 35. Number 35. All right, on the first problems it says, write each percent as a decimal and a mixed number or fraction. So how many answers should I have here? 2. I should have a decimal and a fraction. Remember, a mixed number is just a fraction. So I'm going to have 2 answers on these, okay? So we want to change the percent to a decimal. And then it says we want to make it a fraction. Guys, a decimal is easy to make a fraction, isn't it? So let's change our percent to a decimal, and then we'll use that decimal to make our fraction. Are y'all okay with that? All right. So for number 1, I want to make that a decimal first. What do I do to a percent to make it a decimal? What's step 1? So if I look at my triangle, Malachi? Not multiply. Look, if I go from percent, I got to go to decimal. Remember, I can't go backwards. I can't go back, so I have to go up, percent to fraction. I'm going to go there first, so that means put it over 100. So I'm going to do 8 over 100. Now, if I'm making it a decimal, am I using my fraction button? No, I'm using my division button. When I divide that, what does that give me, Stone? 0.08. So that's my decimal. Are you all okay with that? So 0.08. I'm going to write it on the line. And now I need my fraction. Guys, does anyone remember what do I do with that to make it a fraction? Eli?
You get the number behind the decimal.
Okay, number behind the decimal is?
The numerator.
The numerator. So 8 goes on top. What is going to go on the bottom of this?
100.
100. How many numbers are behind the decimal? 2. So I'm going to put 2 zeros. Are y'all okay with that? Okay. 8 over 100. I can use my calculator to check that out. Type that fraction in, push enter. Did it need to change, Caden? What's it become? 2 over 25. So do y'all see my calculator simplified that for me? So I'm going to put and 2 over 25. Y'all okay with that? Do y'all see how I'm setting that up? Okay. All right, so for number 2, you're going to do the same thing. Make sure you put it over 100 and divide. Get your decimal, then make your decimal a fraction. All right. I want us to move down to number 4. It says to write each fraction or decimal as a percent. Guys, I'm wanting to change this to a percent. If it's a fraction and I want to make it a percent, am I going to use my fraction button? No, I'm going to use my division button, okay? So I'm going to divide. All right, again, I can look at this chart. Here's the fraction. Do y'all agree? It says to get to percent, I have to go first down to decimal, which says to divide. After I divide, to go over to percent, what am I going to do? Times 100. So you're going to divide. 9 divided by 25. Someone help me out. Gabe, you got that? 9 divided by 25, Lauren? 0.36. And now what do I need to do to that? Times 100, which gives me 36, and please make sure you write your percent sign if it's a percent. Okay? So guys, if I move down to number 6, that's already a decimal, isn't it? So do I have to do the dividing part? No, I'm ready to just do my multiplying, okay? All right? Number 7 and number 8. It says write each percent as a fraction in simplest form. So I'm going from my percent to my fraction. All right? So this is kind of like what we were doing up at the top. So here's my percent. Do y'all agree? I want to write it as a fraction. So what am I going to do? Put it over 100. So I'm going to put it over 100. Now guys, if I use my fraction button, 7.5, with the fraction button in 100, does that work in my calculator? Type that in. What does my calculator tell me? Error. So if it won't let me use the fraction button, what do I have to use? Eli? The dividing button, all right? So if it won't let me use the ABC button, I can use the dividing button. What does that give me when I type that in? What do I get there, Sasha? 0.075. Now can I make that a fraction? Frank, what's behind the decimal here? What's behind the decimal? What number? Okay, so what do I need? What number? What number is behind the decimal here, Lauren? Just 75. I don't need the 0 in front. Like if I asked you what number is that, you wouldn't say 0.75. You would just say 75. All right, what needs to go on the bottom of that? Caden? 1,000. Remember? 1, 2, 3 numbers after the decimal. 1, 2, 3 zeros. What could I do to see if that's a good fraction? Caden? We just checked my numbers. Before I just write that down as my answer, Gabe? Type it into your calculator, guys. Before I write that down as my answer, I'm going to type in 75 over 1,000, and I'm going to push enter just to see if my calculator does anything extra to it. Did it? Yeah, it made it. 3 over 40. That's kind of a big deal, guys. All right, so on number 8, same thing. You're going to put it over 100. If it'll let you use your fraction button, is that okay? Yeah, but if it says error, that's fine too. Use your division. Make it a decimal, then make your decimal a fraction, okay? All right, number 9. To write a fraction as a percent, what am I going to do first? I'm wanting to make the fraction a percent. So am I going to use the fraction button? If I'm wanting to change it, am I going to keep using my fraction button? If I want to make it a percent, guys, is a percent a fraction? No. So if I want to change it to a percent, do I use the fraction button? No. What button do I use? The dividing. All right, so divide that. You got a calculator. Dividing that, what do we get? Maggie.
0.24.
I'm sorry?
0.24.
All right, 0.24. All right, now it's not a percent yet, it's just a decimal. All right, so what we've done, we're going from a fraction, so here's my fraction. I changed it to a decimal. Now I've got to make it a percent. So now what do I need to do? Times 100. Guys, that triangle is there to help us. Times 100, what do I get for number 9? Caden? 24%. It is a percent. Make sure we write it as a percent. All right. Number 11 and number 12, this is making it a mixed number or a fraction in simplest form. I want us to do number 12 here instead of number 11. You can do number 11 on your own. All right, write it as a mixed number or a fraction. So, it's a percent. What am I going to do with it? Every time on a percent, what's it out of? 100. So I put it over 100 every single time. All right, it says we want to make it a decimal, guys, and a fraction. So I need 2 answers again here. So we're going to do our decimal first, which means, what button am I using to change that? Division or fraction? Division. All right, when I divide that, 0.06 divided by 100, what does that give me? Caden? 0.0006. Okay. I need to make that a fraction. Okay, so there's my decimal, 0.0006. And what am I going to do to make that a fraction, Harper? We're doing number 12? Oh, I see what you're saying. Sorry, I thought you were talking about my work. I got you. Thank you, Harper, for watching out for me. Appreciate it. 0.0006. Okay. All right, now what do I need to do to that? Eli.
So get 6 is your numerator.
6 is behind the decimal. 6 goes on top. Okay.
And then you put 10,000.
10,000. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4 numbers after the decimal, right? So I'm going to put 1, 2, 3, 4 zeros. Once I add the 1 in front, it makes the number 10,000. Are y'all okay with that? All right, here's my dilemma, guys. If I type in 6, fraction button, 1, and then 4 zeros, and I push enter, guys, did it give me a fraction? No, it gave me a decimal, which means, guys, I'm going to have to simplify this on my own. I'm going to have to simplify it on my own. Ideas on what we can do there? Maggie?
We can divide 10,000 by 2.
All right, 2 will go into 6. And 2 will go into 10,000. So 6 divided by 2 is 3. 10,000 divided by 2, what is 10,000? Half of it? 5,000. So you can just know it's 5,000 or you can type it into your calculator. All right, so now, guys, I'm going to try one more time. 3, fraction button, 5,000. All right, it's still giving me that. It's just not going to simplify it for me. That's okay. Can 3 go into 5,000? It's prime. 5,000 divided by 3. Did that work out very well? No. So can I simplify that any further? No. So that's my other answer there, okay? All right. Number 13, write the decimal as a percent. If I look down here to make a decimal a percent, all you're doing is timesing 100. I think you can do that. Write each number as a percent. So this is that fraction. Make your fraction a decimal by dividing, and then do times 100, okay? I think you can do those. We have some examples on our notes. I want you to flip it over real quick. 17 through 20. 17 through 20. Do you see how you're comparing these fractions? It says, do more kids say they want to see the future or become invisible? Guys, fractions, sometimes they're hard to compare, aren't they? What could you make every single one of these fractions? Maggie? You can make them a percentage, or you can make them a decimal. Are decimals easier to compare? So what I would do is next to each of these, I would write the decimal or the percentage and then compare them, okay? Same thing here. It wants you to put them in order. Write underneath what it is as a decimal and then write them in order, okay? All right, change each decimal or fraction. Write each decimal as a fraction. So here, you're making it a fraction. Remember, we talked about how to do that? Here, you're going to put it over 1,000. Here, you'll have a number in front with it over 1,000. Write it as a decimal, so you're just doing your division on these. All right? Down here, number 26, let's look at this real quick. It says, Autry made 45% of the shots he took during the game. He attempted 20 shots. Guys, what does the word of mean? To multiply. So if I want to know 45% of 20, you're going to multiply them. Now, guys, to multiply 45%, you need to make it a decimal. What is 45% going to be as a decimal? How would I do that? You would divide by 100, and you would get 0.45, and then you can do times 20 to get that answer, okay, Maggie?